Hi everyone, Tano here, the internet's busiest music nerd, and it's time for a review of this new Yeat project, LYFE. This is a new record from one of the hottest rappers out of LA right now, Yeat, who I talked about just recently in a few capacities. My review of his 2 Alive record that dropped earlier this year. Then there was also that Channel 5 documentary shot around a Chicago music festival where he was a featured artist. So yeah, I've had some thoughts on Yeat, and I was hoping to hear something in this new project that would maybe help my feelings on his music, on his sound, the trend that it exists within, kind of evolve. Off the bat, LYFE here is a noticeably shorter project than 2 Alive, especially the expanded edition of the record, though still 12 tracks and 34 minutes is nothing to sneeze at. And with my initial listen here, it's pretty clear that Yeat with this record is just trying to strike while the iron is hot, give fans more of what they are demanding, basically more of the same in terms of what he's been dishing out up till this point. Lots of free-form, slurred, zonked out verses with a little auto-tune on them and no real sense of direction, flowing endlessly over simple, repetitive beats, occasionally with a psychedelic flair, like in the case of tracks on this thing like Come On and Talk, both of which I enjoy the production on quite a bit. It should be pretty clear to fans and haters alike at this point when it comes to Yeat that bars are not really the appeal, the draw of his music. Not that I think Yeat is a particularly bad lyricist or writer, it's just not really the focus, especially considering his vocals are often slurred and muttered to the point where they are nearly unintelligible. Essentially, Yeat's music is mostly about the vibe, which I get. 2021's Up To Me, for example, has vibe in spades, especially on the more aggressive cuts from the LP. Although I thought 2 Alive's mushier and trippier production wasn't exactly helped by the album's runtime that spanned over an hour. It's just that the lack of structure and coherent writing doesn't really play out all that well in the long term. I mean, 20 songs or more that mostly suffer from the same one-dimensionality, yeah, it's going to be a pretty boring listen. Which is shockingly also the case for LYFE, which has very little in the way of life pumping through it. I was hoping that because this project was shorter that maybe it would be punchier, but yeah, that was not the case. I mean, it does start off pretty strong with the track Flawless featuring Lil Uzi Vert. Uzi and the synthy distorted beat all strike up quite a bit of chemistry on this one. It's a really intense cut. But the energy difference between this track and every other one on this record is like night and day. Yeat instantly sounds more comatose as soon as he starts hitting us with bars on the following Up Off X, and it just gets worse from there as the production on this project gets slower and more sleep-inducing. Like with the track What It Feel Like, which features some very drab, steady hi-hat, snare, and synth bass loops. There are some very soft lead melodies in the mix as well that kind of hit, but there's not really much else about the song that sticks with me. Got It All is also a very moody piece of spaced-out trap, but there aren't any flows or standout melodies to kind of guide it. Can't Stop It does shake things up a little bit, takes a risk with some rock-style drums and distant guitars. The aesthetic switch is, again, an interesting change of pace, but it's really the most interesting thing about the song. Once again, Yeat does very little vocally to become the center of attention here. It does make me miss the goofy Tonka truck shit from the last record. Meanwhile, the song Crank gives me severe deja vu, as it just kind of sounds like a boneless version of the song What It Feel Like from earlier on the record, but without, you know, any kind of like compelling flow or melody coming out of it. I guess things on this project do pick up a bit in the second half though. The track Talk is, yes, very repetitive and desperately needs some more structure, but the lumbering, bassy, staticky production is very heavy, very gratifying, and has almost an industrial flair to it. The vibe is there, it just goes nowhere fast. There's also the mildly eerie system in the final leg of the project where, once again, production steals the show. Yeat pretty much sounds half asleep through much of the song, though in a way respect to the song Killin' 'Em, which I think does have a bit more topical focus than many of the other tracks here, with Yeat essentially commenting in his own way on the deadly effects of violence and drug use. However, there's not much of a flow, pace, or melody to this track to get this message across, so I think it's probably gonna fall on deaf ears. But yeah, that's kind of this new Yeat project in a nutshell. Once again, I think Yeat has a very recognizable sound, delivery, and style, especially when I think it comes to a lot of this music coming out in this rage style these days. I would certainly put what Yeat is doing over anything coming out via Playboi Carti's Opium label thus far right now. But yeah, recognizable style, but really fails to go the distance due to a lack of substance, variation, structure, direction, coherence, melodic appeal. It's a vibe that I think goes over very well on certain tracks in small doses, but as an overall project, completely and utterly falls flat, does not go the distance. Feeling a strong 3 to a light 4 on this one. Transition, have you given this record a listen? Did you love it? Did you hate it? What would you rate it? You're the best, you're the best. What should I review next? Hit the like if you like. Please subscribe and please don't cry. Hit the bell as well. Over here next to my head is another video that you can check out. Hit that up or the link to subscribe to the channel. Anthony Fantano, Yeet, Life forever.